Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce. How you
Hey
doing?
David, how you doing tonight?
I'm a little bit gobsmacked. That was
Hmm.
easily the Oilers' worst loss of the season, 4-0. Bruce, in terms of grade A chances, in the first period, it was 14-0 for the Habs. Overall, I mean, the game was over then. Overall, it was 18-2. 18-2. And the two Oilers grade A chances, Bruce, were kind of
Marginal
at
chance.
marginal chances. It was a
Hmm.
Turris outside shot that Cassian tipped on net, and we count tips because those are dangerous shots. They can go in quite easily. And then the other one was Tyson Barry's darn good point shot, which cut out Yamamoto's screen, but it was an outside screen shot, off the post on the power play.
Outside of the post, yeah.
And that was it. That was
Hmm.
it. It was for the whole frickin' game.
Well, give or take, Connor McDavid's perfect shot on an offside play
Oh
that
God.
didn't count, but
Oh God.
it was that kind of night, David. Offside challenge on the first goal by Montreal. Oilers challenged and lost and took a penalty. Offside challenge on the first goal by Edmonton. Montreal challenged and won. And both calls, I mean,
We're
certainly the
correct.
second one they got right. The first one, I'm not sure we ever saw a definitive angle, so they couldn't overturn it. I thought the penalty was a little bit piling on, but it was
Well, if
that
the
kind of night
the
that not
people
much
doing
was going to go right. We knew early.
the people doing the video review in Montreal are the same people who are doing the official scoring. I don't know if we can trust it because the official scoring in Montreal, and I've noticed this two games in a row, is atrocious. They're
Hmm.
constantly, Bruce, misidentifying players, not counting things correctly, missing shots, adding shots. It is a mess. There's there a noise in the background there?
Yeah,
It is a
motorcycle.
mess. Oh, motorcycle.
Spring has arrived.
Yeah.
Spring has
So
sprung.
so anyway, this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. And because this is the worst game of the year, there'll be no good things and infinite bad things. I'm just kidding. We'll try to get a good thing each.
Two good
And
things, 200 bad things, and two numbers. Can we do it
yeah,
that
that's
way?
right. Yeah. One for each hockey man in the big village.
Ooh, yeah,
Bruce, we'll go with two bad things each and two numbers. Do you
sure.
have a good thing, Bruce McCurdy?
I do. I do. And that is the Edmonton Oilers taking away 3 points from a 3 game Eastern road trip, what became the 3 game Eastern road trip. I think they kind of stole 3 points out of Toronto, to be honest. And they were outshot 31-23, 31-20, and 32-17 tonight. So they were, chasing the game in all three of those games. But they managed to hang around in the Toronto games and take them both to overtime and win one of them. And so, as far as the standings is concerned, they come home from this trip with the saw off. As far as the hockey is concerned, just hide your eyes bad, but that's all the more reason to say getting those points is a good thing because that's going to help them down the road. Whether they fully deserve those points tonight, they got what they deserved tonight. I can tell them exactly the number of points they
Yeah.
deserved. I don't think they would have beat the Leduc Riggers tonight.
Yeah, you know that
Did
you're
they still
coming
have a
out
team?
skate. You know you're coming out skating slow when Corey Perry looks fast on the ice, Bruce. When he's looking like he's
Ooh,
anyway. Bruce, my good thing is related to this. I think the Toronto team was the better team in both those games, and the Oilers were lucky to get points from that. So I'm going to say the good thing is this game getting drubbed so badly. It's a wake up. It's an undeniable wake up call. You could have kidded yourself. The Oilers could have kidded themselves after those Toronto games. Well, we beat those guys, and you know Smith stole that game, and so this game they can't kid themselves. They can say, "Oh well, it's just one game, I guess." But I think we're seeing something, Bruce. I saw it last game, which is why I gave such low marks and was pretty critical in the podcast after the
yeah,
Oilers win.
yeah.
They were sloppy in that game. And they didn't get punished for it. They were exceptionally sloppy in this game, and they did get punished for it. Montreal hit the net,
Sure.
whereas the Leafs missed the net on their
Hmm.
shots. So this is what happens when you're sloppy and they hit the net. So all kinds of players, including the very best players on their team, have this should be a wake up call. It shouldn't be brushed aside. Like you've got to play better team defense. And if you don't, you're not going to go very far in the playoffs this year. And I know people don't like to hear that. There was a lot of criticism after that critique was made of the Oilers in the playoffs last year. But it's true, Bruce. The big guys have got to play better. And I'm talking all the defense, not just McDavid and Draisaitl, but Nurse, Barry, all of these big time players. Go ahead.
And all the small time players and all the in between players and everybody and the coaches and the water boys, they all need to be better than that. That was an atrocious display of hockey. I have nothing kind to say about that game other than obviously they hit the wall, and maybe there's a reason they hit the wall. I mean, I don't know how many games they played in March, but this was a game that was never on the calendar. It was like I almost forgot to set my recorder to watch this game because I set them all in advance, and of course this game was never in the system. I barely remembered late this afternoon, oh yeah, I've got to record this game, and it was like the Oilers barely remembered that they were supposed to play it because they just were not even remotely close to ready to play. And
okay,
never got better. Montreal called off the dogs.
They did.
It's basically what got better because they really could have run up the score against the screwed night, I think.
So we've already gone on a little bit about bad things, but now we will officially move to the two bad things each section of the podcast. So why don't I start? Because mine's we're not going to rehash the first goal where Devon Shore may or may not have been tripped. It's hard to tell from the replay. He did wipe out for no apparent reason in the slot, and he would have been the guy who would have stopped that from being a 3-on-2. That said, it was misplayed a little bit. But my bad thing, Bruce, is between that and the second goal, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more grade A scoring chances. Anyway, the second goal is my bad thing, and I thought it typified the Oilers' effort on the night. And when you're like, I really am counting on Darnell Nurse and Connor McDavid to play well defensively. They are the leaders of the team, the heart of the team. They get the most ice time. And if they can get it done on defense, as they often have this year, the Oilers are going to win because of everything else they bring. But on that particular play, both of them did flybys. Nurse is guy who scores the goal, if I'm not mistaken. Nurse, he goes to the net. He stops at the net. Darnell Nurse doesn't, though. As the play goes around the net, Darnell Nurse cruises right on by the net. And meanwhile, the puck's thrown out in front, and there's no one there. Because the other guy who should be covering the front of the net, Connor McDavid, also does a flyby. So both of them didn't stop at the net in the defensive zone to help out their goalie. It's their fundamental job in the defensive zone, cover that front of the net, and they both failed. And I hope they're feeling it because that was a crucial play in the game. The game is still within your grasp at that point, and you can't have that kind of mental error. Maybe they just were totally wiped out, Bruce, because, that was such lazy, careless hockey that maybe the explanation, but that's the kind of thing that should stick in their craw and spur them on. Like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Your bad thing.
What they
Unless
did
you have a comment. Yeah.
Was, embarrassed themselves. I'll I guess start with since you already did second goal, the third Montreal goal, which was a simple face-off play that wound up in the Oilers' net after about 5 seconds after a number of guys kind of blew their assignments. And Draisaitl, it was almost a semi-one draw off to the side, and Tyson Barrie was lined up with the goal scorer, Brendan Gallagher, on the right wing boards, attacking boards. And Gallagher just, after the faceoff was won, Gallagher cut into the middle of the ice, and Barrie started to follow him, and the puck went right past him, and Barrie got all kind of confused. Should I go for the puck? Should I go for the man? And the guy,
Choose the man.
Montreal center, Philip Deneau, was the guy that actually retrieved his own sideways face-off on the boards and fed it back to the point. And by this time, Gallagher's already in front, not being challenged by Barrie's partner, Darnell Nurse. And Gallagher, by my view, got a piece of the deflected Shea Weber shot on the way in. It hit the post, which I think was already the third time Montreal rang the goal post. And this was at the Oh, this was the third goal,
60.
15:58 of the first,
Yeah.
and they'd already hit the post at least twice in the early going, plus this one. And then Koskinen, I mean, I think he was beat by the tip on the first shot, but he couldn't find the rebound at all. And Nurse couldn't find the rebound, and Gallagher could. And that was one of those plays where Nurse's job is to take a penalty for tackling Gallagher, because that's the only way he's going to prevent the goal, but he just doesn't have the awareness or the wherewithal or whatever it took to make that stop. And Gallagher wanted it more than any of the Oilers at that moment in time. And I just thought, just a nothing play where they got the face off, after a dangerous chance just before, and Koskinen had frozen the puck and gotten the draw. And then the new line with the, Draisaitl, McDavid, Puljujarvi, who had a very rough night, came out, and within 5 seconds it was 3-0. And it was, if it wasn't garbage time already, David, it certainly was at that point, which was for the remaining 45 minutes of action. If you want to be charitable and call it action.
My second bad thing, Bruce, will be early in the second period. There's a play where the Oilers have it in the Montreal end, and it comes out, shot down the ice, and there's kind of a contested puck in Edmonton's end where Lagesson gets it, and he's being harassed by a Montreal forward. But at that very moment, when there's a contested puck in Edmonton's end, three Edmonton forwards, Kassian, Puljujarvi, and McDavid, decide to change off the ice all at once. And when Lagesson loses the puck battle, and he loses it, it leads to Montreal a grade A chance. So that was just another one of those mental mistakes that you just can't have, and were typical this game.
All three forwards absolutely coasted to the bench, and Lagesson had full possession, but he was on his own side of center. He wasn't in position to shoot it in without icing it, and they have to give him a little bit of support, and a couple of passing options. Or at minimum, they should be waiting till he gets to center and dumps it in and then makes the change. I mean, the second period, the bench is a long way from the defensive zone. And once Lagesson coughed the puck up, all that was left was his partner, because the forwards were all, 20 feet behind the play, the new line, that all the guys that took minuses on that play that didn't deserve them.
Do you mean Puljujarvi avoided one on that one instead of getting his fourth?
No, he actually got one, because he was on the ice for the last 3 goals against, according to this.
Okay,
But
all right, there you go.
as you've already pointed out, the Montreal scorekeepers, honestly, David, watching this game and trying to track scoring chances, and I go to the play-by-play to see what was it officially a shot on goal, or was it recorded as a block shot or missed the net, and then I go and look at it again, and sometimes I allow it even to be the tiebreaker if officially they say it was 2 shots or 3, one of those kind of things, and it was like it was a different game. I went over there and they said, well, Josh Anderson had a 20-foot shot at 18:30 of the second period, and Josh Anderson wasn't even on the ice, and Montreal didn't even have the puck in Edmonton's territory at that time. And there were some like ridiculous sequences where, there was one maybe 2.5 minutes into the game where there was all 6 Oilers and 4 Montreal guys, all within about 8 feet of the Edmonton net, pounding away at the puck. And the play-by-play was like nothing happened in there. I'm sorry, a whole lot happened in there, and shots were saved, shots were blocked. It was almost like the rugby sequence in Vancouver. Again, but anyway, the play-by-play, it was like fiction.
Did they go over
it was off by 10 seconds or stuff? It's brutal. They should be audited.
Do they audit it themselves after the game? Do they ever change it, or is this official, or do they just do it the once live? Do they not go over the video?
Well, they do review stuff to fix obvious mistakes, like attributing plus minuses and stuff like that. Sometimes they do, and scoring plays and stuff. But honestly, David, this play-by-play, maybe I want to go over it myself and watch. Well, I don't know if I want to watch that game again, but just to see how far out of whack. Like they were off by many seconds and some of the attributions. And, we rely on that data. The analytical hockey community relies on the data coming out of these games and being accurate. And, when they say that shot was taken and they have the wrong guys on the ice, well, that doesn't exactly
Well, this is
raise my confidence in the data.
yeah. When analytics companies who review the videotape themselves, like we do
Hmm.
on scoring
Yeah.
chances, when they go to the NHL teams and they'll say, hey, if you're relying on the official NHL play-by-play, you need to understand one thing. 8% of the time, that's the number. I can't remember which analytics company told me that, but that's the number that sticks in my head. 8% of the time they get it wrong.
Well,
Like, this is a huge amount of error in the NHL's data. And if you're relying on publicly available stats, just know that like there's lots of mistakes there. And you and I know this
maybe they were
ourselves.
rusty.
You and I know this are maybe they were rusty. When I go over it the first time and then you check my work on the scoring chances, it's easy for one person to make a mistake. It's really great to have the second person go over it, then I can go look at it again and then we can back and forth on it, have a discussion. But it's easy just sometimes to misidentify players. It happens.
Yep.
It happens to the best of us, Bruce. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, I know it happens, and I've had a couple chats with one of the longtime minor official scorers in Edmonton that lives in the neighborhood, and talked about some of the wrinkles that can happen during games. And the guys in Edmonton are really good. I got to say, when I look at the play-by-play and actually compare it to what I see by eye, I mean, there's judgment calls as there's judgment calls in everything.
Yes.
I mean, we have that problem ourselves. Was the shot going to be on the net, or was it going to be an inch outside the post? And sometimes you can see the right angle and say, oh, I think that one would have missed, but they credited the shot. But I mean, those are minor things. But when they do make a mistake, they fix it. They do fix it, and they get it right. Yeah.
All right, Bruce, what is your second bad thing?
Oh, well, I'm tempted to say the Edmonton Oilers, but that really should have been my first bad thing. But I point the finger a little bit today at Coach Dave Tippett. Uh, I don't think he had a good game, and I don't think he had a good game right from the start. Like going with the exact same lineup as last night, third game in 4 days, when he has fresh players sitting in the press box, that chomping at the bit, and um, they got other guys that are obviously at the end of their rope. And, you got a young guy like Caleb Jones sitting up there in the press box, never getting into a game. Or you've got a Montreal native Alex Chason sitting up there in the press box that had last night off and might have had fresher legs than some of these guys. So he didn't do anything, I guess, because they won last night's game. But you and I saw through the process that last night's game wasn't that great. And and then his big decision to start with the checking line blew up in his face at the 18-second mark of the first period when Montreal had already scored, when the checking line gave up a full ice 3-on-2 right off the hop. And then the decision to question the offside review on what turned out to be insufficient evidence. I mean, I guess it was a gamble, but that blew up in their face, and they're killing a penalty. And by the 30-second mark, already Shea Weber has wrung another rocket off the crossbar. It would have been 2-0 in the first 30 seconds of the game. And he had a rough start, and and his team, he certainly didn't have his team ready to play. Whether you want to blame that on the coach, the players, the hockey gourds that sort of created this extra game that was never on the schedule, whatever, they were not ready. And some of that has to go on the coach. So rather than point fingers at this player or that player, I'm going to just say this game's, it stunk from the top down. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think it really is important. And I think coaches often they do focus on process. Like they don't kid themselves. And I just, maybe they were just so wrapped up after like such a huge win last night, right?
Yeah.
The overtime win. And I can remember other big emotional wins in recent years where the team has come out very flat in the next game.
Yep.
But he might have put in, William Lagesson has been struggling for a little bit of time now.
Oh, yeah.
To the extent that I'm starting to sense his partner Adam Larson doesn't really trust him with the puck. And I'm going to get into that in a second. Wild Bill's a good player. He's a good third pairing defenseman. They're asking a lot of him right now. And I think putting Caleb Jones in would have been a wise move. I think they miss Chase on the power play whenever he's not playing. Honestly, I just think he's so effective out there, and he pulls the defenders to him with his utter discipline and hanging around the front of the net. So he could have easily gone in, and I would have gone to the dynamite line, but I would have been going with them all year. They did go to that line in the second period, but they didn't get that. It was such a fragmented game with penalties after that. They didn't get a ton of shifts together. We'll see if I doubt we'll see that line. He just seems, I just am frustrated with the coach in this way, Bruce. We need to see Dominic Cahoon play with Connor McDavid to see if that works. You just never know what's going to work and what doesn't work. And the fact that we're this far into the season and we haven't seen a top six, what is probably a top six winner, identified as a top six winger by the Oilers this year. He's yet to play that with McDavid. I wish we'd seen that earlier on. But anyway, there's still time for him to get it right. What's your number, Bruce?
Yeah, on the subject of William Lagesson, here's tonight's, in 11 minutes and 10 seconds that he was on the ice, the Oilers were outshot 14-2. 14-2, with shot attempts of 20-2. And the puck was just in the Edmonton end basically the entire time. Of course, this includes the atrocious shift from hell, which I think you're going to mention shortly, which was probably several of these shots against. But the puck is not moving forward when Lagesson's on the ice. And he makes good defensive plays, but that's not enough. I mean, you got to get the puck going the other way a little bit. And his shot metrics, which were never good, are getting progressively worse. I mean, 2-14 in 11 minutes. I mean,
I really like him. I like his play, but I just think having Lagesson, and Russell all in the same lineup all at once is just one puck mover short of the load. Like, you need one more puck mover in there, shy of a load. You need to get that. You need to have Jones in there, I think, or Bouchard or Lindstrom. Give Lindstrom a game, see if he can play. He's been sitting here going stale. Like, Lindstrom's a very good hockey player. He's as good a player, I think, as William Lagesson in a different style, in a different way. So anyway, the coach likes his defensive D-man. I get it. I can understand that. I mean, Chris Russell has played, I think, really well, and he's played very well with Ethan Bear. So I wouldn't be taking out Chris Russell right now. But Lagesson, he actually needs a break, I think, is the truth.
Funny, Russell would have been the guy I would have been tempted to take out tonight just because of back-to-back 3 and 4 days and him being 34 years old. But you know what? Russell was, other than that very, very early goal where it was a 3-on-2 against right off the hop, he had 4 of Edmonton's 17 shots and 3 of Edmonton's 18 block shots, and he probably wins the prize as the most competitive Oiler in a pretty uncompetitive game. But they named him third star in the broadcast, which was kind of crazy because I would say there was probably about 18 Montreal players that could have named first. Yeah. Officially, it was 3 Habs forwards, Danault, Tatar, and Byron, that were named.
My number is 10, Bruce, and that is the number of turnovers on the shift from hell. This is Montreal's 4th goal. And it starts with a grade A. It starts with a turnover by Jujhar Khaira and a grade A scoring chance by Mete in the slot, where Khaira just kind of, I think it might have actually deflected a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, into the slot.
He whipped it to Devon Shore in the slot, and it caught. Ticked Shore a little bit, but it went right to Mete.
Yeah. So, and that starts with, and it ends with a grade A chance by Thomas Tatar and a goal against. But in between, Bruce, there was 8 more turnovers, and I'll just quickly go through them all. So it starts with Jujhar in the corner, turnover, Mete chance. That's at 3.
What was the time?
3:23.
Okay.
Then we have the Oilers advance the puck out. Khaira should dump it in. He gets to the offensive blue line of the Habs, the blue line of the Habs, and he turns it over at 3:12. It goes into the Oilers' end. Adam Larson at 3:02 dumps it out into the center ice area. 3:02. That's we got three. It goes back into Edmonton's end at 2:57. Shore and Lagesson can't get it out. Failed clearance. At 2:50, Larson and Puljujarvi. Larson whips it up the boards blindly, it looks like, and Puljujarvi can't get it out. At 2:42, the Oilers get it out, and Puljujarvi turns it over in the neutral zone. At 2:33, Larson, at that point, just dumps it out. It's back in the Oilers' end. He dumps it out. And this is the moment where I'm thinking he really doesn't trust Lagesson to put it over to Lagesson, because there was a number of moments there where the wise play would have probably been to go D to D, and he's not making that play, and I'm starting to wonder why. At 2:28, Kara gets stripped of the puck. At 2:13, Puljujarvi fails to clear it. At 2:09, Kara is stripped for the final and 10th turnover of that sequence of pain. And the puck is whipped over to Tatar, who one times it into the net, ending that really horrible
sequence of pain.
That
1 minute 34 seconds. Kara's shift. I mean, each one of these turnovers, if you're tracking the times that David was saying, they're like 8 seconds apart, because Montreal's got the puck in between times.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're getting it in the neutral zone, they're pouring back in over the Edmonton blue line, and sometimes they're just getting it in the corner and working it back to the point. But Edmonton had multiple chances to make a play, and they made none over the course of that 1 minute and 34 second shift for Kara. And let me just double check with Lagesson, 2 minutes and 3 seconds he was on the ice for on that sequence. So I mean, they didn't have the gas in the tank to battle. I mean, it was eventually they were beaten by lactic acid, and not even the Canadians, but it was it was a terrible sequence. My wife went to the washroom in there. I'm not sure what she was doing, because it took a while, because she missed the whole shift. She came out, and I said to her, "Well, it's 4-0 now." And this is exactly word for word what I said. I'll bet you the Oilers turned the puck over 10 times on that sequence before it wound up in the net. And you counted them, and there was 10. So there you go.
Oh, that was so horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
really.
Here's my other good thing tonight. The Oilers made enough mistakes tonight to lose 5 hockey games, and they only lost 1.
That was like a minor hockey league shift. Honestly, it was so bad. Like in minor hockey, you have those you're either hemming them in or they're hemming you, and just like there's such in minor hockey, there's such disproportionate talent on the ice sometimes. The variance of the players is so huge there that you'll often get these dominating kind of shifts. And that was one of them.
One of those games early in the season before they've correctly seeded the teams, where one team beats the other team 20-0, and they move up a division, and the losing team moves down a division, and now it's a little closer to fair. It was like one of those. And that's where, the Oilers, if I'm going to criticize Dave Tippett, his team didn't look like they were very well coached at all in this game. And I don't think that's really on the coach, but he's wearing the mantle, and his boys hit the wall.
Yeah, this is fuel for my particular fire, Bruce, and I do think they need to make a move if they want to compete in the playoffs. Because there may be an answer internally. Maybe if they try Cahoon with McDavid and whoever, Puljujarvi or Yamamoto, like one of the good young right wingers.
Turris?
Maybe they'll not Turris. That penalty he took, Bruce, where he's hanging on. That was a metaphor for his season. He was hanging on to this guy, Gravy, and he's just literally hanging on to his NHL career. Like, all due respect, and I root for all the Oilers, including Kyle Turris. I hope that he does well, but he is really struggling in the NHL this year, and that was a really bad penalty. And McDavid's penalty, that was a little bit iffy, Bruce. Like I part of me liked it because he showed some fire. But maybe a little too much fire. I mean, he hammered that guy right in the head, and
I feel like it came pretty close to head contact.
There could be supplemental discipline on that. It's possible. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that McDavid in the first period might have been the worst period I've seen out of him for a long time. Anyway, What, he
It's
had
just
4 or 5 different mistakes on scoring chances against, and he couldn't
six.
make a play, and he took that penalty, and something else went haywire. Oh, he got hit in the face by Leon. Leon
That
made
was
a pass, and it came up and it drilled McDavid.
that's
I
probably
said,
McDavid worst
I said to
NHL
my
game.
wife at that point, "Why shoot yourself in the foot when you just shoot each other in the face?" Jeez. It was one of those. The good thing about this game is we knew early that this one was beyond um, salvation, right? Early. Like
Yeah.
I stopped almost caring about the game by first period. During the first period, nope, we're done here. Let's just survive with no injuries. That was really,
Hmm.
you know.
Okay. Is that what they teach you at the non-aggression against clipboards class? To just kind
hmm
of to kind of let it go, let it go.
Well, I wasn't grading tonight, so there was that. Like, if I'd been grading this game, I'd be a lot surlier right now than I am because I'd be looking forward to writing about this pig for 2 or 3 hours, right? Have fun, Kurt.
Yeah, Kurt Levins is doing it. I have we have McDavid Bruce six major mistakes, on grade A scoring chances against, not one contribution to a scoring chance for. So this is such a night. Like McDavid's usually about like he averages. It's
Six
about
to zero.
five and one.
Yeah.
6-1.
Mm.
Uh, grade eight's four to grade A's against, and here he is. It's what a horrible game. And the
And
one
most
goal
of
he
them in the
does
first
score gets
period,
called back.
because
Yeah,
that's when all the scoring chances were.
yeah. So they play Friday against Calgary. Is that it? Is that next
Friday,
up?
Calgary, Saturday, Vancouver, both at home. And they got 2 days in between times to come home, lick their wounds, sleep in their own beds, and get their crap together.
I wonder what we'll see with the lines. I wonder if we'll see him stick with the dynamite line. He's really shown a hesitancy to do that this year for some reason. I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Well,
But so I'm not expecting that. I
mhm.
just what I want to see McDavid and Cahoon because they have a decision to make coming up at the trade deadline. I think they should have called Tyler Benson up 2 weeks ago. They should still do it now. They've got to find an answer. They've got to get one more top six forward. Now that Dylan Holloway doesn't look like, I don't know what the latest is. I haven't heard, but
6 weeks, broken thumb.
okay. Now that he's out,
Oh,
they,
mhm.
they a move is incumbent on them, and so one of the moves could just be, does Cahoon work with McDavid? Maybe it does because it's not working with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. I don't think sufficiently, at least, and neither is Nugent Hopkins, Puljujarvi, and McDavid. That line doesn't have much chemistry either. So you've got to find some chemistry outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. Bruce, we saw it again. I think on the second goal against what we saw repeatedly last year. You put McDavid and Draisaitl together, they start to get confused about who's supposed to cover the defensive slot. I've seen it. Maybe I'm looking for it, but
Mhm.
we did see that tonight, and we saw it. I think we saw it against Toronto as well a number of times. They start to figure, I'm not. Am I the center or the winger? And when you're having that thought on the ice, well, the puck's grade A shot on net. So I don't mind those guys together for a short amount of time to super jolt the team, but they got to figure this out. They got to get their top two lines in order because they're not, I don't believe.
Yeah. Well, the big power line had zero going on the last 2 games. Like last night, they had a pretty brutal game, and tonight was worse than that.
Yeah, but it
So,
probably will be break that group up.
so,
So it depends what you do. How do you configure
so
things?
Tippett, to his credit, to start the second period, he completely rejigged all 4 lines and all 3 defense pairings. And the only reason he didn't change goalies was that it was Smith's night off, no matter what. Like one thing they had to get out of this game was a night off for Smith, so Mikko had to suck it up. And I thought he was okay after that, but first period was like chaos all around him. But he didn't have enough thumbs for to fill the holes in the dike. And
Yeah,
between the 3 goals that went in, and at least probably 3 that hit the post, it was a pretty tough period. And some wild scrambles around him.
poor guy, poor guy. There does seem to be, he has been playing well, right, since Smith
hmm
got back in the lineup. His
Yeah.
good save percentage, but there does seem to be a little different energy about the team when Smith's in that. I will say that it's
Yeah,
just
it's the team. The team changes. I mean, yeah, the team changes. I mean, Mikko I wrote this morning about how the Oilers have been doing well in back-to-backs, and in the second game, they always go with Smith in the first game when the team has more energy, and the second game they go to Koskinen, and he tends to face more shots and just sort of soak up the rubber and give him a chance to win. Well, tonight that chance went away real early.
I felt so bad for him on that first
Yeah,
one because
me
that
too.
was like how many goalies are going to get that? If they got that first shot, a point blank shot, one timer shot, pass back, it would be luck to make that
Yeah.
save, and he didn't have that good luck. So, alrighty, Bruce. Well, let's leave it there.
Guess we've
Move on.
hashed over that one enough, eh?
Yeah. What changes
Um,
would you make, Bruce? Like if you were to make some changes?
I'd be tempted to uh, get a couple, get some fresh bodies in there because, I mean, what Tip will probably do is say, okay, we got a couple days off to recharge and let's give these guys another shot. But uh, I'm having a hard time imagining Caleb Jones or Evan Bouchard would be any worse than the showing that we got from the defensemen who did play tonight. Uh, and up front, I mean, they've cycled through the options. I'm not sure there's any sort of wild and crazy things other than that. I think this would be the time to split Connor and Leon again and put them back in the middle on their own lines and try and get their games reorganized because they've strayed from the discipline.
Indeed. All right. Well, Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.